Hello and welcome to Pleasure Reading. I'm your host, Amelia Ruby, and this is a podcast about the pleasure of reading, where I share curated reading lists, author rankings, chats with my bookish friends, and more. If you too take pleasure in reading, I hope that you will subscribe and share this show with a friend. Cheers to your next best book. Hello, and welcome to Pleasure Reading, a podcast hosted by me, Amelia Ruby, where I talk about books and share in the many pleasures of reading with you, dear listener. Today's episode is really all about pleasure because I am going to be sharing a list of 5 romance authors that I think are truly underrated. Now, what does underrated mean? Well, I have a pretty loose definition of underrated. Mostly it just means that I want more friends to talk to about these authors and their books. And so I'm putting them here on the podcast. And maybe you will learn of a romance writer that you've never read before and read some of their books. Maybe reach out to me. Let me know what you thought of them. I would love to hear from you. And now let's get into the episode, shall we? I can't wait to tell you about these 5 underrated romance authors just in time for Valentine's Day. Okay, listen. I feel like in the past few years, we have had some juggernaut romance writers out there, and I love them. I will read everything that Ali Hazelwood and Emily Henry write. I will read all the books. I will watch all the movies. I will check out all the TV show adaptations. I love them, and I'm so excited about all of it. Even though I maybe didn't love The People We Meet on Vacation movie as much as I wanted to, I will probably still watch it again. And I will absolutely still watch the other Emily Henry projects in development. So I love the big names, and not just the A-list big names. I love the other big names too. I have read Abby Jimenez and Kennedy Ryan and Jasmine Guillory, and I love their books as well. But sometimes I want a romance that feels a little more off the beaten path. Maybe it has more of a specific niche in terms of the type of romance it is, or the setting that it's placed in, or maybe I just want a book that isn't on the front table at Barnes & Noble. I want to dig a little deeper. I want to go to the back of the store and pull something off the depths of the shelf. So these authors I'm about to talk to you about are those types of romance writers. The first one that I want to share is my girl, who is not really my girl, but I think of her that way. Lizzy Dent. Lizzie Dent has published, I think, at least 5 romances, and the ones of hers that I've read are The Summer Job, Just One Taste, and The Sweetest Revenge. Across all 3 of those books, we have protagonists, they're all women, who are a little bit lost in their career, in their life, sometimes because they just couldn't find their calling, sometimes because they're grieving the loss of a loved one, and somehow they end up on some sort of hijinks somewhere in Europe, whether that be at a resort in the Scottish Highlands or touring restaurants across Italy. One of the things I love most about Lizzy Dent's books is that they travel. And of course, because they're romances, as they travel, they fall in love. So I'm always here for Lizzy Dent's plots. I just think that we get to go a lot of places, we get to have some fun hijinks, and I always have a really good time as I'm reading them. I also have always thought that these books have nice, momentum, and literally in my brain, I was like, yeah, there's a sort of, vroom to these books. We are off and going. And when I was researching for this episode, I found it a little bit hilarious that the author previously worked at Red Bull and was a Red Bull development exec pitching content for Red Bull Motorsports. So I guess that sense of it all really did come through even in the style of the writing. And I believe that her most recent book is set in the motorsports world. It's called Drive Me Crazy. It came out in 2025, and I can't wait to pick that one up. So my first underrated romance author is Lizzy Dent. If I was going to tell you one book to pick up by her, I would probably pick Just One Taste, unless you very much want to go to Scotland, and then I would read The Summer Job. but all of her books will be linked in the show notes so you can explore them as well. All right, up next on this list is TJ Alexander. Now, TJ has won some literary awards. So again, my sense of underrated is not like truly unknown. But I love TJ Alexander's romances because they are always queer, they are often poly, and they are often set in the hospitality industry, which you might know by now is one of my favorite settings for a romance. I read their book Triple Sec last year, and I just raved and raved and raved and raved about it. It was on many of my best of lists. And I'm really excited to read more of their books in 2026. So they have a series with 2 books in it called Chef's Kiss and Chef's Choice that I will absolutely be reading this year. I believe in Chef's Kiss, we have a perfectionist pastry chef working with a non-binary kitchen manager, and there's a cookbook publishing thing happening, and stress and romance, and I'm very excited to dive into that world. And then in the follow-up, I believe it's a romance between 2 trans characters, and there's something about learning to cook. So I will definitely be picking up both books in that series this year. But I think that TJ Alexander's most recent series is historical romance. Their most recent release was called A Gentleman's Gentleman, and they have a new book coming out this March called A Lady for All Seasons. So if you are into Regency romance, if you want to feel a little royal, get a little historical, then you also might like TJ Alexander's work in that realm. And my understanding of those books is that they are historical, but they're still all about queer joy, which I just think we want more of in romance, more queer historical romance that is not depressing. I want more of that. So all of that is why TJ Alexander is my second author on the 5 underrated romance writers list. And again, I will link all of their books I mentioned in the show notes. Third on this list, which I want to be clear is not ranked. This is a totally random order, but up third is Talia Hibbert. Now, I think Talia is actually pretty well known and has some best-selling books, but I am still obsessing over her Brown Sisters series, and I want more. So the Brown Sisters series includes Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown. All 3 of these books have Black women as the main character, at least one of whom, I think more than one of whom, live with chronic illness. And what I love about these romances is they felt so real to me. This is the opposite of why I love Lizzy Dent, where we're jetting off to Europe all the time. These romances are happening in real life, often at home, and with characters who just feel so down to earth, if a little quirky. And yet amidst that, we have some sexy, spicy scenes in these books. Talia Hibbert knows how to write a sex scene. So that alone probably could have carried me through the Brown Sisters series. I loved much more than just that in the books. And I just want more from this author. So I think the Brown Sisters series wrapped up in 2021. I know there was another book that maybe came out in 2023, but luckily for me, as I was researching this episode, I looked on my bookshelf and was like, oh, I want more books like Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And then I was Googling and I was like, Talia Hibbert is releasing a new book this year and next year. So in 2026, she's publishing A Girl Like Her. And in 2027, she's releasing The Last Thorn. And I think that both of these take a bit of a genre shift for her, because A Girl Like Her, when I read the synopsis, sounds almost like a dark romance. Or, well, let me read it for you and you can tell me what you think. Prickly, autistic, and shadowed by a scandalous past, Ruth Kaba will always be Ravenswood's black sheep. It's a lonely life, but at least it's safe, until Evan Miller comes to town. Calm, confident, and instantly accepted by their small English town, Evan is Ruth's opposite in every way. Yet he meets her suspicion with a smile, handles her awkwardness with ease, and watches her with a hunger that threatens to tear down all her defenses. When a monster from Ruth's past comes back to haunt her, she's forced to make a choice. Should she trust Evan completely, or is her heart safest alone? well, maybe it's not dark, but I feel like, they're using some language there, like a hunger that threatens to tear down a monster from her past. That could go a certain direction. So we'll see where a girl like her ends up. And then her 2027 release, The Last Thorn, I believe is a fantasy novel. So I don't think Talia Hibbert's actually that underrated, but I'm excited for more books from her. And I want all of us to just remember that she exists and read them as they come out. I want to be as excited about her work as I was about the Brown Sisters series again. And so I will be looking out for that in 2026. Next up on my list is Naina Kumar, who I was reminded of because I found a signed copy of her book, Say You'll Be Mine, on the donated bookshelf at my favorite local indie bookstore. And I was like, oh my gosh, I loved this book and I want to read more books from her. Why haven't I read more of her books? So she is a USA Today bestseller, but I don't think enough people have read her work, myself included. So Say You'll Be Mine, if I'm remembering correctly, is about a theater teacher and an engineer who fake an engagement because they want to avoid some matchmaking pressure. This is set in the Indian American community. And so you have a lot of family cultural conversations going on. It also has a dual point of view, which I do love. And I just remember really liking these characters, really liking the prose. And I can't believe that I just kind of forgot to go read her other books. Does that ever happen to anyone else where you're like, oh, I loved that romance so much, and then you just never read the author again? Lucky for us, we're still right on time because she's releasing at a pace of one book a year, so you can catch up. Say You'll Be Mine came out in 2024. Flirting with Disaster, which I think is a second chance romance set in the same community, came out last year. And then there's a new one coming out in 2026 called Just a Highland Fling, which I guess takes us to Scotland. So I will definitely be catching up on my Naina Kumar reads this year. I might just reread Say You'll Be Mine and then check out the other two. And finally, our fifth and final underrated romance author for this episode is Fallon Ballard. I feel like I never hear anyone talking about Fallon Ballard, which is really a shame because she is out here publishing multiple romances a year. She has holiday romance, she has dance world romance, she has marketing world romance, and I think she's even doing some romantasy now. So let me tell you about my faves. The ones that I have read are Just My Type, Right on Cue, and All I Want Is You. And I just checked out from the library Change of Heart and Something Wicked. And I'm really looking forward to her upcoming dance world romance, I guess, which is called Toe to Toe. It's about a ballerina. And her second romantasy is apparently coming out in 2026 as well. So I think I started reading Fallon Ballard's work because I love a romance that heavily features what the characters do for work. As someone who is self-employed and where work is a huge part of my life, I just feel like I love to know what characters in books are doing for work. I like when they meet people at work. I like when work centers in the romance. And I don't like when I'm reading the book and I'm like, does this person have a job? Are they independently wealthy? How are they just sitting around all day? That ruins some of the romance for me personally, unless we're in a romantasy world and then I get people don't have jobs there maybe. So what I liked when I was first reading her books is just that with Just My Type, we have two journalists who were high school rivals and then now are working for the same publication. And there's a lot about their writing and the website they work for and all of this in the book, which I really enjoyed. Similarly, with Right on Cue, we have a screenwriter who ends up having to star in her movie, and the other star of the movie is her nemesis. And so we're in the world of movie making. And in All I Want Is You, which is her holiday romance, we have two rival romance authors who get snowed in at a book conference, and exactly what you might expect ensues. So I love these romances that just have a lot of the work that people are doing in them, and the work is part of how they find each other and fall for each other. And across reading all three of those books, I just felt like Fallon Ballard was giving me exactly what I wanted. I will not claim that these books are doing anything that out of the box in the romance genre, but every time I read one, I'm just like, yes, I love this. The banter is here. The chemistry is here. I'm having a good time and I can get through it. And I'm like, great. I enjoyed reading that and I want more. And then there is more. So I think I still have to go back and read her first book, Lease on Love, which is a bit more like this. I also as I mentioned, I just got her new book, Change of Heart, which I think is a sort of like small town romance. I think the reason it's called Change of Heart is because it's set in a town that has heart in the name. I'll have to look up what that town is. And then, maybe I'll give her romantasy a try. I don't know. Sometimes a solid real world romance writer can make the jump to romantasy and it really works for me. Sometimes it doesn't, but I look forward to reading it regardless. So that's Fallon Ballard. That's our fifth and final underrated romance author for the month of February, just in time for Valentine's Day. Let me recap the list really quick. And as always, you can find all of the books I mentioned linked in the show notes. But our list of 5 underrated romance writers was Lizzy Dent, who writes those super fun, traveling all over Europe, messy female character romances. Then we had TJ Alexander, who is here to give us contemporary queer romance set in the hospitality scene, as well as joyful, historical queer romance. Hell yes. Then we had Talia Hibbert, who is a bestseller with her Brown Sisters series, but is returning with a new romance this year, as well as a fantasy book next year. Can't wait for those. The fourth author on the list was Naina Kumar, who writes really lovely romance novels set in the Indian American community, also now apparently in Scotland. So we're getting out of America. I'm excited for that this year. And our fifth and final one on the list was Fallon Ballard, who gives me exactly what I want out of a quippy workplace romance. Gimme, gimme, gimme. She's got 4 or 5 of those out and then is branching into fantasy this year. So hopefully there's at least one of those authors that appeals to you or that you haven't heard before and you're interested in checking out. Again, all of their books will be linked in the show notes. If you purchase through those links, I will receive a small affiliate payment that I just take as a tip for the book recommendation. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Pleasure Reading. I'm not sure when I'll be back in your pod feed, but until then, cheers to your next best book.